Hi, welcome to the special budget edition of the Property Show. I'm Jayashree Kurup, I'm editor MBTV, and with me is a very august panel. Wanted to set the ground rules. We are live for the next 2 hours from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. We have a series of experts who are coming and discussing this with us. This Magic Bricks is doing this with KPMG. Neeraj Bansal, he's here with us. He's the senior partner, KPMG India. Thanks, Neeraj. Neeraj and I are jointly conducting this session. We have some really good experts. We have TK Arun, he's consulting editor of the Economic Times. We have V. Suresh, he was the former CMD, HUDCO, and vice chairman of the National Building Code of India. We also have Ashok Mohnani. He is the president, NAREDCO West, and we have Manoj Gaur. He's the chairman of Affordable Housing Committee, CREDAI. We are expecting Praveen Jain. He's the vice chairman of NAREDCO National. As soon as Mr. Praveen Jain comes in, he will join us. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a much looked forward to budget. How would the government tackle such a difficult time? And Neeraj, would you like to start the proceedings?
Thank you, Jayashree, for this, and I extend my warm welcome to all our panelists there. Thank you for sparing your time today. Jayashree, as you rightly said, it was a much-awaited budget. Of course, every year there is a euphoria around the budget in terms of the expectations. But this year budget, especially because of the COVID impact that all of us had faced, and the fact that the economy had gone through one of the most toughest challenges through the year. So there was a lot of expectation in terms of how the finance minister would come out and do the balancing act of having us to see the growth as well as be able to give support to the much needed support to the sectors that are still reigning under pressure, and also to the different sections of the society as well. I must say that on the fiscal deficit side, the way the finance minister has carved it out to be at 9.5% for the current year, and also has put out a 6.8% for the coming year. I think that's a very, very strong act in terms of seeing that there is a government spending continues to happen. And we have seen that the capex side of it, the government has put out a 5.5 lakh crore expectation around the capex spending to continue, which is a much needed increase over last year spending that has happened. So despite the challenges, despite the issues that are happening, the government spending, which is one of the important areas to be done, is going to be growing at about 35% there. Also, I think on the budget side of it, the way the finance minister has laid out the budget in terms of having a lot more focus on the major sectors and allocating some major sums for that as well, and not potentially, if I may use the word, spreading the money thin over every expectation that would have come in, and which is perhaps the reason why you see there's no change that has happened in the direct tax laws as well. There, given that there was a stimulus, or let's say the economy had started to shape up around it. So some of the supply-related measures that have been taken on the infra side, if I may say, in terms of the aspect around setting up the asset reconstruction company to take over, the NPAs and bad assets loan which have been there right now, and the fact that in terms of setting up for almost 7 textile parks which will be set up over there, and 5 fishing harbors, privatization of ports, as well as setting up a larger disinvestment target as well, for some of the jewels of the government, there. Those are the ones which I would say that would give us much needed required impetus as well as cash as well there. And I think the focus continuing on the railways, with the record outlay of 1.1 lakh crores on that, and then in terms of speeding up the infra aspect of it, in terms of highways part of it, with about 8,500 kilometers of new highway to be done by 2022. Those are some of the important steps that the government has taken. So all in all, from an infra perspective, there seems to be a strong push that the government has done. On the real estate, if I may just quickly add, I think real estate, the sector had started to do well, in the last couple of quarters around it. There I would say that, there have been some expectations which have been missed in terms of GST reduction, input tax credit, benefits under the Income Tax Act, which people were really looking forward to, while that demand has been there for every year. But this year there was a much higher expectation that might come through around it, and the aspect around the infra status, or removing the cap around the affordable housing as well. While there have been some things which have been continued in terms of the tax holiday, and the interest benefit which was given last year to continue this year as well. So there have been continuation which are positives, for the sector, but some of the challenges do remain in terms of supply side there.
Right. Let me go to TK Arun. He's a consulting editor of the Economic Times, a very respected commentator on the finance aspect of policy. So, Arun, how do you see the budget? A lot of things as far as financial matters are concerned, access to finance, cleaning up some of them, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's a positive budget. It's a good budget. Now, normally, people generally underappreciate the significance of the size of the budget. Indian budgets before the 1991 economic reforms could be pretty large. I mean, at least the central government's budget could be 15, 16, 17% of GDP. As we tried to compress the fiscal deficit, that had been achieved by reducing the overall size of the budget to 13%, 12%, even 11% of GDP. The size of the budget has been around 12.5%, 13% of GDP for the last 4 or 5 years. This year, for 21-22, it has been budgeted to go up to 15.5% of GDP, which means as a proportion of the total value of the output, central government expenditure is projected to go up significantly. Of course, it is done at the expense of additional borrowing. It might be 6.8% of GDP is what is budgeted. But I think it's needed. The economy needs a big boost in spending, and that spending the government is going to undertake. That is the intent, which is good. Now, in today's global context, it is not just a question of how much money the government would spend from its own resources. It's a question of how effective you are in leveraging the large pools of liquidity, investable savings available in the global capital market, which you can attract to India and put into your own much needed infrastructure projects. And here also, a serious attempt has been made to allow this to happen by setting up apart from, in addition to the existing national investment infrastructure fund, a development financial institution is being created. So which will have an additional initial capital from the government of some 20,000 crore, but it will attract additional capital from around the world, from the bond market in India, which in turn will finance a whole lot of infrastructure projects, which is a very positive development. Now, I personally had been in favor of just a very well developed bond market. I didn't know you really needed a development financial institution. In any case, the government has set it up. It might actually facilitate coagulation of funds from the rest of the world, and so I'm happy that's being done. Then the asset reconstruction company that has been set up. Now, ideally, I would think that the existing banks should be made the shareholders of these bad banks, this asset reconstruction company. Because one major problem we have with the existing ARCs and the banks' reluctance to transfer their assets to these ARCs, private ARCs that we have, is that at what price will you sell them? Suppose you sell them very cheap, the bank manager might be accused of causing loss to the exchequer, and he might go to jail. I mean, he's scared of that. He doesn't really finally go. So whereas if you transfer assets to an ARC that is owned by the banks themselves, so even if the pricing while you transfer the bad loan to this ARC is not very great, if that ARC in turn does a good job of resolving the assets and getting a good price, the profit will also kick back to the banks, to the shareholders. So I would think that having a bad bank and ARC owned by the banks themselves, at least to a large extent, would be a major goal. There's no details as to who will own this, but it is being created, and that is absolutely vital. If the banks continue to be saddled by large amounts of bad loans, they will not lend. If those are taken off their books and they are recapitalized as the intent is to, then they can once again start lending. So that is another positive measure. Then all these other things that Neeraj talked about, infrastructure push, some help to the bond market, all this good. The creation of an additional infrastructure investment trust for the power sector, and the road sector. All these are very positive developments for construction and infrastructure building in general.
Mr. Suresh, before I come to you, I'm going to let our two real estate representatives talk, because you will then be able to throw light on policy and real estate and finance.
Sure.
Right? Ashok Mohanani, help us understand what is your reaction to the budget. You're straight from the industry, you represent the industry.
So Jayashree, I mean, there is no direct, impetus to the industry. As earlier Neeraj said that yes, we had, in small bits been given earlier, a lot of reliefs gradually during the lockdown. But yes, clearly the focus is on the infrastructure. 5.54 lakh crores is a good amount, to be spent on infrastructure. This will, of course, benefit the entire industry, the real estate industry, in many ways to come. Then, of course, they have extended ATIB-A by one more year for affordable housing, though not, of course, redefining the thresholds of affordable housing, but right now it's 45 lakhs. So I think they've kept it as that. Then, of course, they also have a lot of tax exemption, which Manoj will speak on the, on the rental housing, affordable rental housing. GST, they said that they simplified, but I don't see what exactly they intend to do for GST. Yes, as far as the senior citizens are concerned, they said yes, above 75 lakhs, there'll be no, returns to be filed. As far as the, the appellates are concerned, income tax appellate tribunal is concerned, they want to make it faceless, which of course is a very, very positive sign. Then there'll be no, last year they had announced, the government, that there'll be no DDT, but it'll be declaration on the income. So that's also, welcome. NRIs are going to be very happy because there'll be no double taxation. So they will be encouraged to invest in their, in India. As far as, the limit of 1.5 lakhs, which is extended again by one more year for affordable housing, that also is very encouraging. All in all, I think things are looking good. We are getting small packages, but I'll fail in my duty if I don't acknowledge what the Maharashtra government has done by reducing the stamp duty substantially by 3% and then by 2%, as well as they have considered, on 14th of January, reduction of premiums by 50%, which of course is the bottom line. The bottom line is under control. I'm sure we can be able to build much more housing. We can pass on the benefit to our consumers. So this benefit is only given to those developers who will be passing on the entire stamp duty benefit to the consumers. So this, we had requested the housing minister, Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, to urge the other governments also to follow this practice which Maharashtra had done. We being the leaders, I'm very happy to be a part of Maharashtra and part of Mumbai, especially. So all in all, things are looking good for real estate. And with a little bit more support from the center, things can get much better. That's it. Thank you.
Manojji, affordable housing is the one thing that has done well. Clearly, India is buying in the 20 lakh to 70, 80 lakh, in some cities, 1.2 crore. But clearly, people, it's the end user who's buying for self-use. What did you expect, and are you happy with what you've got? You're on mute.
You're mute.
Sorry, Jayashree. Now I'm audible?
Yes, you
are. Thank you, Jayashree and Neeraj. First of all, we have to understand this is a budget after Corona. The entire world economy is on the collapse, and somehow India is managed to get back on the wheel. But इसको जो है हमने बजट से पहले भी बहुत जगह जिसको रिप्रेजेंट किया कि गवर्नमेंट कुछ ऐसे स्टेप ले सकती थी, क्योंकि रियल एस्टेट इंडस्ट्री एक ऐसी इंडस्ट्री है जो मदर ऑफ इंडस्ट्री हम इसको बोलते हैं. वी आर टचिंग मोर देन 250 इंडस्ट्री. चाहे एम्प्लॉयमेंट की बात हो या कंजम्पशन की बात हो, तो सबसे ज्यादा अगर एक इंडस्ट्री को अगर बूस्टअप हम देते हैं तो वो आगे बढ़ती है. लेकिन गवर्नमेंट की लिमिटेशन को देखते हुए वी आर हैप्पी विद के अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग के लिए जो टैक्स बेनिफिट था उसको कंटिन्यू किया गया है. इंटरेस्ट बेनिफिट को बढ़ाने की मांग थी, लेकिन उसको कंटिन्यू किया गया है. और बहुत सारे कंप्लायंस लेवल के ऊपर जो है जोर दिया गया कि कंप्लायंस को किस तरह से कम करें जो है, सो दैट लोगों की लाइफ थोड़ा इजी बने और उनकी एक्सपेंडिंग पावर जो है बढ़े. इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के ऊपर डेफिनेटली गवर्नमेंट का एक फोकस है. और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बढ़ता है तो हाउसिंग इंडस्ट्री के लिए जो है नई अपॉर्चुनिटीज, नए एरियाज जो है उसके अंदर डेवलप होते हैं, और वो पैसा कहीं ना कहीं जो है घूम के जो है वापस से सिस्टम के अंदर आता है. तो इन दैट केस जो है वी कैन से कुछ एक्सटेंट तक हुआ है, बट स्टिल आवर डिमांड इज ऑलवेज विद द गवर्नमेंट. वो रहती है इंडस्ट्रियल स्टेटस देने की बात थी, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर स्टेटस देने की बात थी. ऑफ कोर्स जैसे महाराष्ट्र से अभी मेरे कुलीग ने भी बात करी कि स्टैम्प ड्यूटी रिडक्शन और डेवलपमेंट चार्ज जो वहां पे लगते हैं उसके रिडक्शन देने से एंटायर मुंबई रीजन की जो रियल एस्टेट मार्केट थी वो सडनली जो है रिवाइवल उसके फॉर्म में आ गई. तो इस फार्मूले को भी हम था कि अगर ऑल ओवर इंडिया लेवल के ऊपर इसको अगर इम्प्लीमेंट किया जाता तो एक रियल एस्टेट सेक्टर जो कि गवर्नमेंट की बहुत सारी फ्लैगशिप जो भी योजना है उसको जो है कैटर करता है, चाहे वो स्किल इंडिया है, चाहे एम्प्लॉयमेंट है, चाहे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बूस्टअप है. तो वो एक डिमांड हमारी अभी भी बैलेंस है. प्लस जीएसटी इनपुट क्रेडिट को बंद होने से ऑटोमेटिकली 200 to 300 रुपीज स्क्वायर फीट कंस्ट्रक्शन कॉस्ट इंक्रीज हो रही है. वो एक डिमांड स्टिल पेंडिंग है और उसको हम लगातार प्रेस भी करते रहेंगे. अगर बजट में अकोमोडेट नहीं कर पाए हैं तो हो सकता है कि आने वाले टाइम के अंदर किसी अदर तरीके से वो करें. ओवरऑल रियल एस्टेट के लिए बहुत कुछ ज्यादा डायरेक्टली इसके अंदर नहीं है, तो वी कैन से 2 या 3 डिमांडों को कंटिन्यू रखा गया है इसके अंदर.
Right. Mr. Suresh, first of all, it's a directional budget. I don't think this budget was looking at just 2021, 22. It seems to be talking about the next 3-4 years. It's also giving you the direction of how India wants to go. There are certain things I think that has come through in the budget. The GIFT City, for instance, by creating a fintech hub in India, it's almost like asserting that India has the financial muscle to now have a full financial hub and try to make it the Southeast Asian financial. So help us deconstruct what the impact of infrastructure will be on this real estate industry, and also how the government seems to be, from Atmanirbhar to Swabhiman kind of thing. There seems to be something that is happening in this budget. Help us understand how you see.
Yeah, dot on Jayashree, in continuation of all the right messages from Neeraj, Arun, Ashok, and Manojji, I would also like to take on exactly on the same format from a 7% minus contraction to project into 11.5% GDP growth to be the number one in the world from IMF itself to project that particular one. They all see the whole situation of the global context there, and therefore that's a setting. We should understand that. And therefore, when you try to do that, there has got to be, it cannot be business as usual anymore. It has got to be major changes required to be done in a direction to be. You require a vibrant, buoyant economy to be created. And that's the first possible message. And it's got to be growth oriented and large. And once growth takes place, housing, all the things will be collateral will all already start coming over there. That's the most important component. And therefore, all the right messages in relation to that particular one, and to convey of a self-confident India trying to grow and emerging out towards a $5 trillion message that has already been put in front of you. You have to go from that 3 trillion to 5 trillion. The nature of growth has got to be phenomenal in a large way in all sector, and including, of course, the agriculture sector that has been touched upon. But I think obviously the larger thrust message is that put in infrastructure in a large way. Highway, as rightly brought out by each one of our speaker, 1.18 lakh, railways around 1.010 lakh crores there, and overall 5.5 lakhs crores to be done in various investment, power sector in a very large way, as well as in the renewable energy sector, also a lot of things coming, a lot of initiatives for defense, education, and health sector budget. Each one of those particular means growth in those sector will relate to the next possible next one direction, which the IAM Ahmedabad study of mine, what does it happen in terms of each, all of them finally end up into housing development into a very large way. And therefore, as long as the framework for that is available, and you continue to that particular message with various other benefits which came over the last 2-3 budget, like the first NDA one and the second one which has come so far, that should be fine in a large way. And according to me, these directions are very important. You may not have got something directly over there. I know whether the 40, our demands are many, that make that 45 lakhs for the tax-free component, which is available under that section, make it a little more larger. If you make it a little more larger, I'm sure Oliver will always ask for more, make it a little more larger, you know. But the best news, by that, you're able to produce large amount of products, which you will see in our subsequent session over there. The phenomenal amount of demand, and actually sales moving up, especially in this direction for those 20 lakhs to 80 lakhs products over there in a very large way, around 600 square feet or around 1,500 to 1,600 square feet type of housing is very important. And if that is getting the continued support through the not only the affordable housing one and the new affordable rental housing market, the migrant labor and all those components, which is the bottom of the pyramid. Of course, even though the private sector has really not bit it so far, I'm sure over a period of time that will also come in a large way. But the most important message I'm able to see is that the message which is given for the NRI, with the investment of them into the housing sector and their own demand, large number of the Indians who are in different parts of the world, geographies, are also interested in investing into housing and other asset class development. And real estate is not housing alone. Other asset class also has got to come in this particular segment. And the message that which Arun rightly said, in fact, that's his pet topic. And I was remembering Arun the moment the finance minister talked of development of the bond market for the long-term finance, you know, and pension fund, etc. to be brought in. And that's a big problem in India. We never had the access to long-term money. All the money are short-term money. Even the small bonds are about 5 years and 10 years, but we never had those long-term money of 20 years, 30 years from the pension fund or the insurance fund and various other incomes which are coming over there. So from that particular point, it is a good message. REITs also was mentioned indirectly, but I'm sure we have to go into the print, the fine print, because rental housing is one area where, in addition to the commercial rental, there also REITs can come in. Wherever rental housing has come, any part of the world, REITs has come in. Over any rental product will attract REIT investment coming. So that's also a good product that can come in this particular sector. And some mention of the GST was there. Of course, it's already brought down to 1% for the affordable housing and for 12% down to 5% for the other housing. That has been a major.
But I think what they're asking for is input credit, right?
I know.
That needs to come back.
I know. I'm sure that that's an operative aspect. That will not be a part of the
that's not a budget
it will be other policy related issue. And issues like, of course, stamp duty reduction and other aspects which are development costs and other related premium to be. These are, of course, state specific and what you call city specific operations which are there. Many states have come down with those inputs over there. All we can do is see how the benefit comes over all over the country of a good initiative coming in one state. And there are various other initiatives in other part of the country also in the sector. Possibly the going green is a good message. I liked it. The solar energy to come into a very large way as part of the whole energy related component of roughly adding around roughly 200 gigawatt of solar energy to give out 1,000 odd crores to IREDA, another 1,000 crores to SEC, solar council, development council, etc. are good messages, because we also have to conserve all our resources, be it water or energy, etc. It will come into the housing. And my own feeling is that with all this development, growth takes place into a large way in all the sectors over there. Housing will be the natural, what you can say, conclusion of the demand for those particular things, and office and retail space will be the next major component coming. If the country grows, economy grows, wealth is getting generated, obviously all these sectors of the real estate sector, all of them, be it on the commercial or retail or office space or hospitality sector or of course, health already being given a big gem. Obviously, healthcare sector will also grow in that sector.
Mr. Suresh, I'm going to come back to you because I want you to.
I would close my opening statement with the thing that, from my particular point of view, if all of the things are doing well for the overall good of the country, housing and real estate has to naturally grow with already the type of framework already available and continuing on the policy.
That's right. In fact, if you ask me, I felt that this was the India infrastructure report of Rakesh Mohan being deconstructed, because what they've done is they've given India infrastructure a boost. And Manoj God, there is a query that has come from Rahul Deshmukh, who says, what about the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana? Will it continue or not? And actually, I think a lot of people are concerned.
Yeah.
Because 2022 was the year that we used to say Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana was for. Help us understand what is the future of this project, how much has gone on the ground, how much is in various stages of construction on the ground.
Definitely, you can see in the budget also the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana जो उसका continue था, उसका जो benefit था वो continue रहेगा, और still government 2022 तक जो सबका housing for all जो उसका mission है, उसके तहत एक affordable housing की जो story है वो अभी continue रहेगी, क्योंकि एक बड़ा large section जो है अभी भी अपने घर से जो है उसको घर नहीं मिल रहा है, या उसकी जो बजट है उससे वो beyond जा रहा है। तो अनटिल गवर्नमेंट उसके अंदर हेल्प नहीं करेगी तो इसके अंदर कोई भी इंसेंटिव नहीं रहेगा अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग को बनाने की, क्योंकि कंस्ट्रक्शन कॉस्ट दिन पे दिन इंक्रीज हो रही है, कंप्लायंस कॉस्ट जो है वो बढ़ रही है। कोई भी ऐसा नहीं है कि अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग की एक बिल्डिंग बन रही है और एक लग्जरी हाउसिंग की बन रही है तो कोई भी आप कंप्लायंस उसके अंदर कम होता है, या कोई भी आप जो है उसके अंदर स्ट्रक्चर के अंदर कोई कमी कर सकते हैं, तो सारे कंप्लायंस लेवल द कंस्ट्रक्शन कॉस्ट रिमेन सेम। बट गवर्नमेंट का जो इंटेंट है अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग के लिए वो कंटिन्यू रहेगा, एंड वी आर हैप्पी टू सी कि वो अभी एक साल के लिए और टैक्स इंसेंटिव जो है उसके बढ़ाया, जिससे कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग के आए। और लास्ट 4-5 ईयर्स के अंदर अगर रियल एस्टेट अपने पैरों पे खड़ा रहा है तो उसमें अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग का एक बहुत बड़ा रोल रहा है, कि अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग ने ही रियल एस्टेट कंपनीज को बाहर निकाला है। लोगों ने अपने प्रोजेक्ट्स को रीडिजाइन किया, लोगों ने अपनी प्राइस को रीडिजाइन किया, प्रोडक्ट को रीडिजाइन किया, और गवर्नमेंट ने भी डेफिनेटली, गवर्नमेंट स्टेट सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और एज वेल एज द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, बहुत सारी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट स्पेशली यूपी गवर्नमेंट की जो हाउसिंग पॉलिसी है प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना, दैट इज वेरी गुड। उसकी वजह से हम देख रहे हैं बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स जो है वो प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना के अंदर आ रहे हैं, जिसके अंदर न केवल गरीबों को जो EWS हाउसिंग को बूस्टअप मिल रहा है, बट स्मॉल हाउसेज उसके अंदर डेंसिटी कम है, उसके अंदर दूसरे डेवलपमेंट चार्जेस वगैरह पे 50% की रिबेट है, तो उसकी वजह से एक अफोर्डेबल कैटेगरी में यू कैन से द हाउस बिटवीन द 20 लाख टू 30-35 लाख के अंदर लार्ज नंबर के ऊपर हाउसेज अवेलेबल, दैट इज नीड ऑफ आवर। इस रेंज के अंदर सबसे ज्यादा लोगों को घर चाहिए, तो वी होप कि ये स्टोरी अभी कंटिन्यू रहेगी, और जो लोग अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग के अंदर अपना घर देखना चाह रहे हैं वो ये रेस्ट अश्योर रह सकते हैं कि उनको इस कैटेगरी में और ज्यादा हाउसेज देखने को मिलेंगे।
Ashok Mohanani, we talked about, the finance minister also talked about affordable rental housing. That is something that hasn't evolved. Now, I want you to talk about it, and then we'll go on to Neeraj and Arun, who can comment on, is it a viable medium? It's not enough to create policy. Is it, how does it come on the ground? Because migrant labor, we saw, really needed that affordable rental housing.
See, Jayashree, I'm basically from Mumbai, Maharashtra.
Yeah.
Mumbai, the land prices are, comparatively exorbitant.
Right.
So if a developer needs to do this and to, make affordable rental housing, then he has to have some sort of a support from the government. If there's a private-public partnership, then definitely we are very keen to work with the government and construct such rental housing. But per se, if you ask me as a businessman, whether it suits our pocket, then it's a little doubtful, I would say, to buy land at this price and give it to rental, where the yield will be hardly 2.5%. And here we are paying interest, in the mid-teens, 12, 14, 13, 15% is interest we are paying to the financial institutions, including banks and NBFCs. So therefore, we expect some support from the government to give us land to do this. If we are given that, I'm sure our association, our development association, will be more than willing to get into affordable rental housing. Yeah.